To the April 15th, 2026 Village Plan Commission meeting. Roll call, please.
Rizzer.
Here.
Basil.
Here.
Batia.
Here.
Bosnowski.
Here.
Washburn.
Here.
Mayor.
Here. Okay. I didn't have any meeting minutes in my packet, so I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to ask you just to hold them over until next month. We'll have
Okay.
2 sets for you.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, no old business, new business. Number 1 is 4707 County Trunk Highway H Site Plan Review SP 25-10. Sam?
Mr. Chair, the American Transmission Company applied to expand their utility substation located at 4707 County Trunk Highway H, approximately 65 feet northwards. The expansion will include additional similar electrical substation equipment to the existing equipment and substation screened. That's currently a 23.5-foot stamped concrete wall. The application complies with the comprehensive plan. The Park and Open Space Plan designates this area as a priority protection area under the Pike River Watershed Plan. We'll note that the utility expansion area is largely gravel, pervious surface, and to the south, Microsoft Corporation partnered with the Root Pike Wind to restore the Lampere Creek to a naturalized state. The bike plan identifies a bicycle lane on County Trunk Highway H, which exists as an off-street multi-purpose pathway. The application doesn't include any land division. Regards to zoning, the application does not meet the outdoor lighting requirements of the code. However, for previous ATC substations, they have denoted that the lights are only on during emergency activities, which are exempted from the code. If it's during a power outage or something, they need to get out there. Otherwise, they don't generally have the lights on. So we just noted that they'll either amend their lighting plan to meet the code or confirm with staff that they are only on during emergencies. This meets the safe community and balanced growth and development key strategies from the strategic plan, and the property is tax exempt due to it being a public utility, although we do get regular utility payments from the state in lieu of this, so this will marginally increase those payments, but the expansion area is not all that big, so we didn't do the full math for you. With that, we recommend approval subject to that one condition on outdoor lighting, and I can answer any questions.
If they confirm to you that they're only on when they need to be on, is that gonna be in writing?
Yes, yep, we would ask that it's in writing, which is what they previously did as well.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Nancy?
I've brought this up to Sam. I did email him earlier. And one of the things that I see that ATC is not here, which they typically aren't, but when we had our private meetings with Microsoft last year, one of the things we talked about were I talked about were the ATC areas. And my question to them was, can they go any higher on the wall? We're already giving them a variance because they're going above our ordinance. And so by virtue of this approval, they're already going higher than the code wants them to, but we're all for that. My question is, and I guess according to Microsoft, it's an ATC question, if they had the freedom to go even higher, could they cover those ugly things a little bit? Could they go up another 10 feet? I just find them to be such eyesores. And they're right up against H. They're right up against Highway 11. They're right up against Brown Road. Our view corridors are really, they're not really pretty view corridors on some major roadways in our community.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think from a height circumstance, you're not speaking for ATC, but from the village's standpoint, we do exempt utilities from the wall height regulations, and so they don't actually need a variance for this anymore. We amended the ordinance so they can, the 20-foot, 23.5-foot wall height is fine because of that carve out for utilities. That said, I think the electrical equipment is like above 40 feet tall. And so it's really, where do you draw that line? It feeds in from the tall towers and then down to the electrical equipment. So, I'll leave it up to the commission what you want us to ask for if you want to add a condition, but I don't know that you're ever going to screen 100% of the utility equipment out there just due to the height of some of it.
And I don't by any means expect to screen all of it. But another 10 feet's another 10 feet. When you're driving on the ground and you look up, when you're driving from a distance, to me, So I guess that would be something that I would, and I'm happy to make the motion, to include just a request to ATC.
So just to clarify, this is only for the expansion area, so the remaining area would still be at 23.5 feet. They're not replacing all of the wall, they're just
Well, that-
kicking it out
maybe they-
60
I was
feet.
gonna, I would assume they're moving it, because those are panels.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm
they'll
sure-
probably reuse some if,
Yeah.
you know, if we don't push back at them. Again, that's up to the commission, but,
Well, I wouldn't wanna see us go back and then have one at a 40-foot and the other one at 23. That would be,
That would be,
you'd wanna match up what they've got today.
Well, then it
And
would
it's
be
a good
like-
suggestion in the future to talk about it, if, you know, for any future ones.
Well, and I brought it up before,
Yeah.
and it, you know, everybody, I don't know, it's ATC, you know, you ask the question, is there a design criteria that forces them to stay at no more than 23 feet? Or is it just something that is based on the request of the municipality? Or, you know, does it get too hot in there if it's encapsulated? I don't know. I want answers, and that's what I keep asking for.
yeah, I think we also have to be careful about, where our authority starts and ends, them being a public utility, this connected into wider transmission lines. Our ability to regulate them is,
I'm not asking to regulate them, I'm just asking a question be asked.
yeah, the question, totally fine. I think that is it, but like, you know, my thinking is,
well, my feeling is at least it's not a chain link fence. Cause I've been on sites like that with a chain link fence. And that's like being in a prison. So this looks a little better than that.
Sam, didn't we give them a variance to go higher? Didn't they?
originally, yes, we've since amended the ordinance,
Okay,
though,
but
to
originally,
exempt
yeah,
the
I think
utilities.
they actually requested to go higher, and we gave them as an exemption. Yeah, okay.
Regarding the finish on the new versus the old, I didn't read every note in this drawing. I was looking to see if there was something about finish, whether the two finishes are gonna match, or how they're getting
Yeah.
this to, is that somewhere in here that I just didn't see it?
Yeah, the wall specs in the plans, they should match. It's a stamped concrete panel.
I understand the stamped concrete. I'm more concerned about the
Color.
color variation between what was existing and what's new. If they reuse some of the panels, are they gonna be the old weathered panels, and then the new ones next to them are gonna be sort of this patchwork? What can we expect to see when they're done?
I would expect that any reused panels, you know, would have that, so the only difference being how weathered the paint is out there.
Yeah, that would be tough. I think that there should be some uniformity to what we look at when we drive by it.
Again, I don't know how much authority we have to, like, require that of them.
Where's my
This is kind of
appearance
a,
review committee?
yeah, like,
At some point, ATC will tell you to pound salt.
Yeah.
yes. So it is walking up to that line of how much will they do out of the kindness of their heart versus them just citing the state statute to say, this is part of transmission infrastructure and we don't have to follow any of your rules.
Well,
I think they are an eyesore, and I don't think there's anything wrong with just asking them.
It's up to you guys. Again, we're happy to ask as directed.
For both questions, yes.
I can see both point. I can see Joe's point, you know, you don't want to have a 40-foot wall and 23 feet, but overall, I tend to agree with my colleague. It's no harm to ask, request, recommend. Let's see how they respond, because we cannot, like you said, we may not be able to, we are not able to force them. So, but I don't see any harm, you know, because if you don't ask, you don't get it.
Oh, yeah. I'm not trying to defend them at all. I'm just trying to set
Yeah,
expectations.
I know,
Yeah.
but I think if Nancy wants to have the motion with the request, I'd love to second that.
All right, so,
but it can't be contingent on
No,
approval.
no, it's not contingent, it's a recommendation or
I
request.
understand.
Okay, I'm just saying, you know, so everybody else knows is that we can
I'm
put it
not
in there,
trying
but
to
it's,
stop ATC, I'm not gonna lay down in front of the bulldozer, okay?
Why not?
Well, because I've done it before and it hurts, you know? Okay, so certainly I'm willing to make a motion, as I said, I'm willing to make a motion to approve the site plan review for 4707 County Trunk Highway H Site Plan SP 25-10, subject to the comments and recommendations of the planners on the review, subject to those conditions, with a note added to request staff to reach out to ATC to, number one, ask if they can go taller, that we would certainly be willing to allow that. And number two, that when and if they are reusing panels or moving panels, that they make sure or try to make the colors blend with the existing panels as best possible, even if it includes potentially repainting the old ones to match.
I second the motion.
Okay, the only comment I have is, are we talking about this particular site? Because I would think that we're gonna be about raising it to 40 feet or some higher level. You don't want it on this site. That the additional wall, I don't think, that request actually goes, I think, outside of the purview of this request here, but.
That's correct. I think
So
it's
it
an
would be for
information.
anything
It's an
future?
information. It's
for
an
that- or-
information.
Or any future sites, because we have 2 more coming yet.
I know, and, you know, if I may, my comment would be, like Nancy made the motion, we are not asking for the future, but depending upon the response, they will probably would be proactive if it's anything that it makes sense for them.
Right.
You know?
I think
So-
the key is to ask the question, get the answer, and react from there.
Yeah.
It's very simple. But in the meantime, their site plan review is being recommended to the village board for approval by this motion.
Yeah. The only, again, the other comment I would have is in regards to, there's gonna be 2 more centers, correct? 2 more ATCs being up over on 11 and then at least 2. Have we approved those fully through for them yet? So again, that we can talk about that discussion on the new ones going up.
I think that's a
Then
great
we'll get the
idea.
Okay,
answer, yeah.
okay.
Great
All right.
opportunity for us.
Yep, okay, so we got a motion and second.
I think, I
Oh,
just want.
sorry, go ahead.
I think after this one, I think we will have a pretty good idea, depending on their answer, as to which way to go,
Yeah.
Yep,
right?
yep. Okay, so we got a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Good discussion. Number 2, ordinance 02-2026, 3649 Lathrop Avenue zoning map amendment, ZMA 26-01. And it looks like that's gonna be Robin.
Just a small aside on that normal one, that last one. Some cell phone towers are disguised as trees, especially in California. They make them up to look like trees, probably because cell phone towers could be subject to the ordinance, but the utility companies are just like, shrug. The effectiveness of such disguises is left to the eye of the beholder, but it's something that I thought was neat. Anywho, okay, so we're going on to ordinance 226, 3649 Lathrop Avenue zoning map amendment. The applicant applied to amend the zoning map for the property from RE, residential estate lot, to RL, low density residential. The applicant wishes to construct a 400 square foot outbuilding on the property, which will increase the impervious surface percentage of the property from approximately 33% to 35%. Per the lot and building regulations, the limit on impervious surface in the RE district is 25%. However, this limit was added to the code recently via Ordinance 9/2025, so the existing structures and their impervious surface coverage are legal nonconforming. The limit in the RL zone is 50%. The comprehensive plan indicates the residential for the property and nearby parcels are both RE and RL interchangeably. It's basically, this is one of those parcels that is in the in-between area where they can be conceivably either of the zoning designations. In the 2020 zoning code, we just usually picked one, like based on some factors. If it was a little bit larger, it got RE. If it was a little bit narrower, it got RL. All of the lots in the Spring Lake subdivision are RE, so sometimes adjacent lots also got that quality. When the impervious surface change was implemented in the summer of 2025, staff was of the opinion that the village would need to draft alternative compliance and flexibility components in order to prevent the need for variances or rezones over relatively minor code compliance circumstances. This application would be an example of where that would be needed. We didn't want to go out and do all of that at first until it was shown that it would probably be needed. Staff plans on bringing some suggested provisions to Plan Commission in the near future, but the goal would be to encourage stormwater management best practices throughout the village. So we're looking at a couple of different models of whether it would go under the stormwater fee kind of umbrella, or using some kind of bonus or credits for stormwater management best practices. Other localities have that for rain barrels, rain gardens, stuff like that. Just a little thank you to people that do those kind of measures and lighten up the load on our stormwater management system. So we want to build in flexibility. We also want to reward those folks who want to have a more pervious or stormwater friendly area. That being said, back to this one. So staff has no conditions and recommends approval, or recommends this board recommend approval to the village board.
Do you see much difference, Robin, in the parcel size in the Spring Lake neighborhood as opposed to, can't remember the name of the neighborhood to the west, west of Lathrop there, where Country Lane and Daisy Lane are?
Yeah, the average parcel sizes in Spring Lake are a little bit larger. They're about a third of an acre and up. Also, I was put under advisement at the time that the HOA covenant restrictions of Spring Lake were such that they would match a little bit more of the RE zoning district rather than another one. We do, funny enough, that we do have a variance on those lot and building regulations this month, but it's for one of the parcels that are on that little peninsula there, i.e. parcel that would never sort of be allowed today, but you know, lucky them.
Well, you know where I was going with this is that every time someone wants to exceed the 30%, right?
Yeah, so 25% RA.
25%, they're gonna have to come before us?
No, we would like to change that. That's why we would like to have some allowances for it. The RE limit being 25% is that most RE lots are very large, 1 acre and more. There are some that can get down to about a half acre or somewhere around that smaller amount, and that's where the 25% amount gets problematic. But RE lots typically are over an acre, 2 acres, stuff like that. So you won't be seeing this too often. Okay. The AG district already has a 25% limit as well. That one's never come up. So, and we like the kind of the flexibility because you get to kind of choose which, like if you're in the middle, you get to choose, okay, do you want more impervious surface coverage, or the RE district has ag rights. So some people have come before us, many more actually have come before us to get zoned down to RE so they could have agriculture rights, so they could have, you know, a couple of goats or a horse or something like that. So it's presenting options for people.
Anybody else? I do have a few questions.
Sure.
As usual, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was going to ask the question, why did we zone this RE in the first place when we did this? Because I don't think any of those actually, even Spring Lake, meet the requirements for an RE. By doing this change, aren't we spot zoning? If we're technically taking one lot out of a whole group and saying, okay, you're going to be able to get RL zoning. And the last one is, it shows a 400 square foot outbuilding, okay, that they want to add. What it doesn't say is they don't have to build 400. They can build how large of a pole barn?
I mean, there's one that's a couple of parcels up. That's a pretty large one already. Which is like, you know, it's like 30 by 36 or something.
That's what I'm getting at. I'm concerned that we're going to have one property that we're gonna rezone so that they can build. It says 400 square feet, but that doesn't mean anything because
Sure.
that's just a picture.
Yeah.
When they come in, they can say, well, I decided I want to build a 40 by 60. And the neighbors are gonna go, what?
Yeah, so, I mean, if it was like so if it was like an island in the sea of RE lots, then I would argue a little bit more for spot zoning. But it's neighbors across the street, neighbors up the street are also RL, so it's basically more like merging in with that one. And the spot zoning would also be more of a thing if it went against the comp plan. Our comp plan just says residential, it's flexible. And we've also acknowledged that when we did the zoning code update in 2020 and mass rezoned everything, like it's just like kind of assessments where you use kind of a, almost like an arbitrary, like a formula, a rubric, and stuff gets sorted out, and sometimes you get sorted into the wrong bucket. And it's better that we allow them to resort themselves into the bucket they want to be, rather than not allowing that, I think. And with this one, there would also still be limits on where it can be placed. Most of the remaining space on this lot is in the front yard where an outbuilding couldn't be placed anyway. So that's where that goes into it, so.
I just don't want to see us putting something there where it's going to be because there's a couple of them on Emmertsen Road that have been put in by houses that are awful. And I don't want to see, this is a very nice neighborhood.
Yeah.
People, I would like to protect their neighbors as far as the ability for him to throw, whoever it is, to throw any kind of a shed, because it goes in for perpetuity now. They could sell the thing tomorrow and somebody's got it and say, oh, I want to put this large pole barn there now.
Yeah,
And they're by right.
Yeah, we've had a tricky time kind of legislating taste, as it were. It's tough without hauling everybody into more meetings and longer meetings. And so if we want to have some aesthetic standards and stricter ones, that's another discussion. We can have a note on that. But as far as the overall limit, this limit didn't exist a year ago, and now it does, and we support that still. It basically includes driveways, where before it was only building coverage. Now it includes driveways, concrete sidewalks, and stuff like that. So that's the main difference.
And I don't know if the owners are here or not. I don't know. They're not? Okay, yeah, you would know them. Why aren't they just attaching the 400 square feet to the existing garage?
He's not going to be using it for vehicles. It's from what I can tell, because he's not going to apply for an additional driveway connection or anything like that. So it's just going to be more of a shed with a larger door. And
20 by 20 is a good,
yeah,
roughly.
it's a good size. So other than that, I'm not. Can you rephrase the second part of your question?
Why aren't they attaching it to the existing garage? Because if it's going to just be an addition of storage space, where they put it is along the lot line, and they have room to put it to the south of the garage. They could add on to the garage.
They would still need the rezone though. The whole
Yeah.
point is the impervious surface coverage, so.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Nancy.
I guess, based on our code, first of all, were he not asking for putting up this extra building, which which triggered the rezone based on the impervious surface? Some of these lots that are kind of spot lots that the land use plan changes and the zoning code changes kind of left out there like this, they could come in by right, could they, or I guess the question is, could they not come in to ask to be rezoned to a more proper zoning for their property without the impervious surface requirement?
Yes, they could.
So they could have asked us to rezone this to RL, because that's really what district this land sits in. So I don't have a problem with rezoning it to RL at all. Another question for staff would be, don't we already have something in the code where when you're adding an outbuilding like this, there's some architectural standards, they have to match colors, and we already have some architectural fingers out there, is that correct?
For RE. So that applies in the RE district, but not in the RL district.
Okay,
And those are that it can match, it should match the materials and colors of the main house, which has been kind of problematic to enforce because, you know.
depending on when the house was built and they're building the outbuilding, they may not
Yeah,
have
we don't necessarily want to like make everybody make their garages out of brick, so you have to accept stuff that looks like brick, which opens up some room for interpretation. But there are other standards there. If we want to look at those, that's more than fine. But yeah, this is one of those lots that could have gone into either bucket, and because they wanted to do this, then they chose to go through the RL route. There were a couple of other ways that I suggested that they could do it mechanically. They could also ask for a variance, stuff like that. But those are more tricky as far as whether or not they have the power to get that.
I mean, they have a pool, they have another small shed, they're obviously outdoor users. I saw that this garage is not attached to the old garage, but I don't live on their property. I don't know, maybe that wouldn't work for their purpose. You know, I look at it like they're asking us to rezone it. We know what's driving it, which is the outbuilding, and they already have a lot going on their property, so that always is kind of problematic, but our code tells them where it can sit, what the setbacks are, and again, if this additional impervious surface on their size lot, based on engineering review, requires them to do some rain gardens or something to absorb a little bit of groundwater, then that's gonna be a condition of the permit. It's not, you know, and they need to get to that process. In my mind, by not agreeing to rezone it, I worry that that's a problem because they really are, based on their size and so forth, this lot is really an RL lot.
Yeah.
It's not an RE lot.
It seems that the whole neighborhood is.
Right.
The Spring Lake is, this parcel is adjacent and backing onto Spring Lake, but
Right.
it's not in the Spring
It's
Lake
not part of
subdivision.
their
Okay.
association.
So they're not part of the HOA as well?
No, they're not connected at all, so, yeah, so that's where I guess I'm not really that worried about it. I hope that they would be considerate of their neighbors, and they would be respectful of wanting to have, in an attractive place that's not blocking a neighbor or blocking stormwater. We won't allow that if there's easements on the side, and I know there's a lot of them over there. You know, so I guess in that regard, I think it's reasonable to get it zoned to the proper zoning. And again, they have rights based on our code to build sheds and pools and do all sorts of things, you know, as long as it meets our code in terms of setbacks and any other requirements.
Yeah, and we look forward to bringing some stuff before you that in order to ask for something like this, that there is also mitigation. Like, so if we want to increase the impervious surface, well, here's how we're going to mitigate that, so we're not making anything worse, as opposed to just asking for a blanket rezone, so.
I live in a neighborhood, and this is kind of interesting. I know the people that are doing this, and I think they're gonna do a good job. And this particular thing is gonna sit in the back where it doesn't create an eyesore. But like you said, there's a house, two houses away. They put a 20 by 40-foot barn, and it looks kind of
It's very big.
place.
Yeah.
It's nice.
We can't win them all, unfortunately. We decided, and the board agreed, that we should err on the side of property rights and letting people build what they want to build, as opposed to bringing every single shed and large outbuilding before you guys. So you're gonna get some complaints on that nature. It's just the nature of the game.
Okay. On that note, then, I will look for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve ordinance 02-2026, 3649 Lathrop Avenue zoning map, amendment, ZMA-26-01.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other comments, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimous. All right. On to number 3, Emmertsen Road West Comprehensive Plan Amendment, CPA 26-02.
Alrighty, so this is an amendment to our accepted road proposed layout layer, so the transportation element of the comp plan. This on the left is the current one. I'll increase all the sizes. I apologize for the PowerPoint. It does look pretty, but I have to adjust some of the sizes for the fonts and stuff like that to make it easier for everybody to read. And it's not just because one of my eyes is shot. On the left is the current plan, and on the right is the proposed layout. The applicant wishes to do a subdivision on 12 acres of property, and in order to do that, they have to modify the current plan, which has 3 exits out onto Emmertsen Road. One that lines up with Kinsey, one that's along the site of Haven, and one a little bit further to the north. And they aligned it as shown on the screen right there. I will say that the proposed map as written is not feasible. It goes through some houses, it goes through some properties. It doesn't line up with what currently we would do no matter what. So there would need to be an amendment of this proposed road layout, no matter what.
You mean the current layout?
The current proposed road layer is not possible.
Okay.
So it needs to be amended before anything can be done. So they're bringing an amendment and having it to match what they're proposing. The proposed plan, it aligns with the goals and policies of the comp plan. It successfully addressed connectivity requirements by streamlining the previously excessive 5 connection points along Emmertsen Road. Furthermore, that improves regional traffic flow by correctly aligning Mariner Drive extension with Kinsey. So the current one, that's a small jog, and this one's lined up. We do have some additional considerations, and this is the main topic that we wish you guys would want to talk about. While the plan proposed meets the connectivity needs of the comprehensive plan, it's important to note that the primary reserved connection point is located on an adjacent parcel outside the applicant's current control. Staff remains open to any of the 3 connection points identified in the current planning layer and agreed that removing 2 of the 3 would have no detrimental effects. However, we advise caution and urge the commission to especially consider the feasibility of those proposed future connections, particularly since a previous development decision by the applicant at 630 Emmertsen has already limited one potential access point. Relying on third-party property owners for essential connectivity may introduce long-term implementation risks. So we're okay with any of these as long as they get connected. That's the only thing that we're concerned. So this proposal is as good as any other, just that it's got to make sure that that connection happens. So that's the only thing that we see.
When you say make sure the connection happens, when?
Yeah. So that when somebody comes in and develops that particular parcel and says, well, I don't want, and if they ask the same board, I don't want to do that road layout, that we would have to say no at that point. Barring actual village action, which is off the table for obvious reasons.
You were talking about the road, proposed road that says public road, the northeast.
Correct.
So is a cul-de-sac there potentially?
The connection is currently marked on there.
So Green Valley is the only existing access that is currently built.
No, there's 2 stubs. There's Green Valley, and that is Explorer Drive off of Sunny Slope. Those connect into the neighborhood, but connecting out to Emmertsen would be only the Kinsey connection.
Right, which is
And-
not the property under review by us.
Correct. But we've anytime that property's been considered to be developed, we've mentioned that that road should be extended no matter what anyway. So that's just putting all of that onus on that one property.
Well, so what you're, I mean, I don't know that we can, in other words, this parcel stands alone. It currently has one access that onto an existing road, which is Green Valley. That's the way I see this.
Yes, this particular parcel, correct.
And that's the one we're ruling on today.
We're ruling on the comp plan for
On the
parcels
comp
outside.
plan- On the comp plan, the roadway comp plan, right?
Yeah. So that plat is not.
Not the use, but the roadway.
Correct.
So by ruling on that, in other words, when we have a comp plan for roadway that says the parcel south of the one that's actually before us must be developed in a certain manner, in this case, it would be access to Kinsey as well as access to Emmertsen. Am I understanding that correctly, the parcel to the south?
Yes.
So in other words, if that parcel came to us and had some crazy different road layout, but still made those connections, that's really what's important, is those external connections. They can do whatever they want inside of there.
That's
To
the
a
mo-
degree, to a degree. It'll obviously measure itself out, but, okay.
Yeah, if it doesn't meet exact, we can, nitpick it.
Right,
and then,
yeah.
But if it meets, but we can allow it if it basically meets the like that it makes that connection and it makes it viable. We've brought things before to you guys about that where it means the general nature of it, because we have a lot of this stuff where the roads go through a house or it doesn't line up or there's a wetland there now. So things have to be adjusted for many reasons.
Right. I understand that. I mean, I think, the biggest thing is the north-south road. I mean, even, there's just no way to get an access for this parcel over to Emmertsen.
There was. So there was about 60 feet of right-of-way on the 630 Emmertsen one, which is under this parcel owner's control, and their house is now kind of foreclosing that. So that did go out, and that was marked on the plan. But that.
So somehow we let them lose that. We gave away that.
It wasn't really ever up to that kind of decision. There was somewhere about that. It was always ticky-tacky, and that was a very narrow one anyway. It would have been kind of threading a needle through like a keyhole or something less. But it could have worked. It could have been possible.
I mean, I like the way the neighborhood shapes up.
Yeah.
There's some long roads on it, and we're not gonna get all the external accesses right away for this particular site, but I like the way the road plan lays out, and I think you've done a very good job of using the accesses that are there and the spaces that are there to allow access, and
Yeah, if
I
it
can
sounds
live
like
with
I'm
that.
sounding negative on it, I'm not.
Yeah, you
We
are
are
sounding
totally
negative.
fine with this connection. We just want to put a big old flag and say, hey, remember that we're making this decision and we need to stick to it in the future.
Okay.
That's it.
so we're simply doing the comprehensive plan amendment,
Mm-hmm.
and then we will see the plat later on in its various phases,
Yes.
zoning and platting and so forth, as long as we amend the plan, right?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, I'm still a bit confused, but nonetheless. and-
That happens when I'm let to talk too
the
much.
fact is that we're looking at an overall plan, but then there's the last one that you gave us, actually off of Green Valley Road, there's like a 20,
That's just a concept exhibit, Joe. They haven't submitted anything formally.
okay, that's why I'm a little bit confused and
Yeah.
why that's in the packet even, because we're really not considering that, right?
Yeah, that's just what spurred this application, is they want to develop that north property. And we said you have to amend the comp plan because there's all these road connections that you're not following.
That's past, it's
so
no longer
that's-
accessible off Emmertsen Road there.
Exactly. So that's
Okay.
just there for context for you all, but you're not deciding anything on the actual subdivision plat. And really, all you're doing today is voting to forward this to a public hearing. So you're not even making the final ruling on the amendment.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I should have
Okay.
mentioned that
All right.
first.
Yeah.
But we like to lay everything out that will be considered.
Yeah,
No, I think
Up
it's
front.
important. I think land use plan amendments without a plan of what's driving it are, I think that's important.
Well, and again, and we don't want to, block anybody from access back there someday too. You don't want to, again, this is one parcel, it's owned by one person at this point?
The 12 acres, yeah, it's one applicant, and then there's there's two main parcels that would make the majority of this work. And if it didn't remove the connections to the collector,
Right.
it would meet more in the definition of kind of adjusting an internal layout, like Nancy brought up before, of like, as long as you get there, you're fine. But because it was removing those connections, that's why it needs this first. Otherwise, it could be done concurrently.
Yeah, I just don't want to make sure anybody's not getting landlocked, that's all.
Yep.
And I guess the question I have too regarding, it says the 40-foot strip that goes out to Emmertsen Road, it's gonna be conveyed from parcel number blah, 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 to parcel number blah, blah, blah. The only thing I'm gonna suggest, and this is thinking down the road for this, is from a construction project management standpoint, when they're building the infrastructure, it would be really nice to use that 40 feet. That 40-foot access off of Emmertsen. Otherwise, we can hear the complaints now. This is a big neighborhood that all that construction equipment is gonna route through. So that is kind of just a note to you guys, as you, Sam and Robin, as you see the plans come through.
I don't think that's 40 feet wide.
That's what it says on the plat.
Well, going from Emmertsen backwards or going from side to side? Because there's some.
It's a
portion-
40-foot width on Emmertsen Road by 239 feet,
Oh, okay.
stretching over to the edge of what will be this developed Ann Hamilton subdivision.
I thought it was a little bit narrower than that, but
Yeah, that's what it says on here.
all right. I mean,
I'm just reading what's in
I
front of
believe
me.
it's 18 feet. I think the 40 feet is from the center line of the road to the park.
Oh, it may be. Oh, I see where you're at. Okay, you're right. I apologize. You're right. It's 18, that's a 40-foot wide or long. All right, Robin, don't brag. No,
I wasn't sure enough. I had given it up. I was like, okay, you got this one. I'm gonna take
but
that
I
off.
think nevertheless, the property owners can work together. I don't know if you're conveying a parcel that she already owns.
Oh, we tried. When they built the original house, I suggested that they swap that 18 feet to that parcel owner for 10 feet of the south side of that parcel so that there would be room to make that connection. But those negotiations did not go well. So,
Yeah, because I think typically we're gonna require a 20-foot access. But I think it needs to be talked about when it comes down to construction. I would think that Public Works is gonna have something to say about that. Just saying. Just a note to the future, not a,
that's all good.
Robin, speaking of the future, I'm glad that Nancy, because of experience and what she does for a living, she can understand much better than I do. Because I spent time looking at these two proposed and the existing and trying to find out on the details of where we are. So for the future, I think I'd like to see, maybe you can kind of circle that area saying this is the connection point we are talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
And because I was also getting confused, and right above that, you have a list of properties with the addresses on the Emmertsen Road. And I spent a lot of my time trying to figure out where do they fit.
So each one of those properties is a property that's being changed by this comp plan amendment. So each one of those has a proposed road layer going through it, or in the current version or the new version. So the comp plan for those properties are being changed.
But my point is, looking at the package, which we get electronically only, I had a hard time to understand.
Okay. And
So-
the other thing is that's how we're gonna base the notice requirements off of that parcel list.
Yeah, but again, it'll be helpful if you could maybe kind of circulate a market, because before, when we used to get the hard copy print, I could print. Nancy has a business, she can print it, other people. I don't have anything. I'm a retired guy. I just have a small printer and my laptop. So
Right.
I spend a lot of my time expanding, zooming, trying to understand that, so I'm just making a comment that make it a little bit easy for us to understand.
Okay, I'll try to be more clear. Usually though, all of my verbosity gets edited into final form by Sam, so it gets a lot shrunker. We got a lot more direct.
Yeah.
Well, I'm probably more familiar than most of y'all with this kind of stuff, because we at the county did neighborhood planning like this for gazillion years. And we had one guy on staff that basically that was his job, and we would do something like this there to improve on what's current, because in current, to say it politely, sucks. And this one looks like it's pretty good. You don't punch out too many things trying to get to the main arterials, or collectors rather, but you do make a nice connection to the north and the south. And, you know, it takes a while to finish these things, but I think it's a fairly decent job of developing this vacant property.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, I look for a motion.
I will go ahead and make a motion to recommend approval to the board for public hearing of the Emmertsen Road West Comprehensive Plan Amendment CPA-26-02.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any other comments? I didn't ask if anybody from any comments, so, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass unanimous. Good luck. Okay, number 4, 10460 Washington Avenue Site Plan Review, SP 26-02. And it's Sam.
Mr. Chair, Keller Inc. applied on behalf of Urban Trend Salon and Spa, when their name is transitioning to Beauty and Soul Salon and Wellness, to construct a 5,172 square foot new building at 10460 Washington Avenue. Proposed site plan includes a building, trash enclosure, and related parking lot. The application meets the elements identified within the multi-jurisdictional comp plan, the park and open space plan, and the Village of Mount Pleasant master bicycle plan. The application does not include a land division. The property is zoned C2. The C2 district permits commercial service uses as of right. The application does not meet the following zoning requirements, which I'll get into in a sec for our recommendations for approval. The application does meet the following key strategies and outcomes as balanced growth and development within the village. Our recommendation is the staff recommends that the Plan Commission moves to approve the application subject to 7 conditions. The first is updating the landscape and screening plan to include 1 canopy tree per every 4 parking spaces per the ordinance. No portion than a parking lot can be more than 150 feet from an interior or perimeter canopy tree. 2, the applicant shall update the landscape and screening plan to denote the ground cover for the non-developed areas of the property. And we recommend that they use native prairie seed mix for as much of the non-developed area as possible, which is the pre-settlement landscaping pattern for the area of the village. 3, the parking lot exceeds the maximum parking ratio for commercial service uses by 18 parking stalls. The applicant shall either modify the parking and access plan to either reduce the number of parking stalls to no more than 4 per 1,000 square feet of building area, which is 21 spaces, or identify one of the 3 increase measures per the Code of Ordinances. 4, the applicant shall modify the parking and access plan to denote 2 short-term bicycle parking spaces. 5, the applicant shall modify the parking and access plan to install sidewalks along Washington Avenue or pay an in lieu of fee per the ordinance. 6, applicant shall modify the parking and access plan to connect the internal pedestrian circulation system to Washington Avenue frontage per the ordinances. And 7, the applicant shall modify the parking and access plan to reduce the size of the parking stalls to those identified within the ordinance or apply for alternative compliance per the ordinance. For the village impact, we estimate estimated net value per acre of $343,681 per acre. That is a net revenue annually of about $2,173 and an estimated gain over 40 years of $158,613. It has a 2-to-1 revenue to cost ratio. and we estimate it would pay back its public liability in 1 year. A lot of those fiscal elements look so good for what is not a super high-dense development, is because Washington Avenue is not owned or maintained by the village, and the interior access road is a private road. So really the only costs that we have to serve this in the long run are service costs. It's not a large commercial service use, so that we don't estimate that they'll take up a ton of police resources. So with that, we recommend approval subject to those really landscaping and parking lot conditions. I can answer any technical questions.
Regarding the parking count, in the letter, they had talked about having an existing 8 stylists. Let's say they have 11 current employees, and they would want to add 17 more employees, for a total of 31 employees, as I understand it. I have a question for the applicant. Is this a rotational count of employees? They have shifts? Are there people who come and go? Because in my experience, salons and offices where there is turnaround, you not only have the chairs where a person is sitting, but you have the next person who's parked there as well, waiting for their appointment.
Yep.
So the 4 spaces per 1,000 square feet can become somewhat constrictive. And I'm wondering if there's more we can talk about there, because I would hate to see this underparked as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's completely reasonable, and the ordinance specifies that all the applicant needs to do is submit that parking demand study to indicate that the provision of more than the maximum number of spaces is warranted by the anticipated parking demand. So we just didn't get a study showing that in clear detail. I mean, we don't need a full traffic impact analysis, but kind of a, more dedicated, here's our shifts and all the things that you were kind of talking about, Larry. A 1 to 2 page follow-up saying anticipated demand, number of employees, shift counts, when hours of operation, about how many people we'd have on the parking lot, plus growth plans.
That would be helpful.
We're not trying to be overly strict here. It's just the code is pretty specific that if you exceed the maximum, just let us know why, and we can approve it.
And I totally agree about the parking length. In particular, the 20 feet seems excessive to me for most uses. We've gone down to as much as 17 and a half where it hangs over a green area.
Yep. So, and again, there is that alternative compliance if they want to keep those 20-foot stalls in length. That's one of the reasons why in a lot of these we're recommending that natural planting for the area. There are some wetlands on the west side of the property that are undeveloped. So by, improving and naturally planting those in the long run, they can actually, like IBEW, not that far away, kind of cross-count some of those allowances towards alternative compliance. So, our code is written currently as like, if you landscape it nicely or have other nice stormwater elements, we'll let you be a little bit more flexible on having an increased size parking lot or number of spaces, that kind of thing.
I just don't see the value of doing it in this particular case. And if we had the opportunity to reduce impervious surface, I think we should look to take advantage of it.
Yep.
You say this is all private roads in there? Is that how that's?
To the north, the Washington Avenue to the south is obviously a state trunk highway.
Yeah, okay. Is there any thought about connectivity to the appliance store at all? As far as-
We did not address it, nor does the code require it at this point in time. This is one of those odd lots that we inherited due to the land swap deal with Sturdivant. So the whole business park was kind of developed under Sturdivant land division rules. Needless to say, if we were developing it nowadays and applying our land division standards, we probably would accomplish it a little bit differently than they did, but we're working with what we got. So we didn't require any sort of cross connectivity just because that private road is really just to the north there, and it really only serves 3 properties. So we don't expect there to be a whole lot of traffic on that private road. It's this 4 properties, sorry.
Yeah.
The clinic, Grand Appliance, the salon, and then the potential ambulatory.
Bell Ambulance, right?
Yeah, Bell Ambulance building to the north there. But that was about it.
Okay. All right.
Chairman.
Yep.
Sam, in the map that we are looking at the location, in the corner, the lot goes like an L shape. So when you're talking about the pond, parking lot, building, I'm okay, so the pond, are you talking about the pond which is at the end of that L shape?
All of these properties actually share stormwater to the wider pond to the northwest.
Yep.
But there are some wetlands and stuff on the west side of that kind of, the foot to the L, to the western side there. So stormwater drains off-site into that wider pond, but because the whole western kind of leg there is largely undevelopable, that's why, one of the reasons why we recommended the prairie plantings out there. Some of which already exist, so it's really just kind of filling in the rest that they don't plan to develop.
I guess what I'm thinking is that portion of the land, which you can see on our map, how big is that? Is there a possibility that down the road, they could split the land and sell that off? And if that case, that pond would be out of their lot.
It would be tough, not without a lot of DNR permitting, could they do that. So I would say likely not. They showed on their draft plans, the draft expansion areas, so they were gonna kind of wrap the parking lot around towards the Washington Avenue frontage and then expand the building northwards in that area, which we don't have an issue with any of those expansion areas, but moving it further west to divide off more property, it's really wet in that southwest corner, so I think it'd be pretty tough. You'd need to fill an acre probably of wetlands before we would even allow the land division, and so not the cheapest or easiest piece of property to develop, for sure.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Nancy.
Sam, is this the location, I had emailed you and I apologize, I saw you answered me, but I didn't read it.
Yeah.
I had emailed Sam because we rezoned this, a year and a half ago? Is that Joanne and her husband? Oh, not her husband, sorry. We won't tell anybody. We're not at a Coldplay concert, so it's okay. I apologize, but Joanne, I remember when we rezoned this. This is the same location, right? So it's just taken them quite a while to come back and get their architecturals. And as I said when we rezoned it, I am a big fan of Urban Trend. It's a local business in our community that has some great employees and a very nice spa and salon services, and to see them expand and want to stay in our community, I'm very happy about it. I think your building looks great, very modern, fits along the roadway. So I think as they move forward, you know, and go through some of the parking steps and so forth, you know, I've driven by, well, I've actually been to the location, and you know, there's pickup trucks, there's Ford F-350s and 250s that park in their parking lot too. It's amazing who gets their hair styled or their nails done, and they drive big trucks. So I think sometimes that 20-foot parking lane gets a little bit, you know, people want to shrink it, and yet I know there's 3 of those size vehicles in my family alone. So, you know, we always are looking for places that we make sure we have room to park. But I didn't have any questions. I just wanted to remind the commission that, the Plan Commission, that we did zone this last year, and I was very excited about seeing Urban Trend expand in our community.
Likewise.
I'll make a motion if everybody's done.
You may, thank you.
All right, I will make a motion to approve the 10460 Washington Avenue Site Plan Review SP 26-02, subject to the recommendations from staff, items 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I second the motion.
There's 7 of them. He only put 4 on the screen.
Okay, all 7
All
conditions.
7.
Thank you, Frank, as always, you've got my back. Okay,
Okay.
and all 7 conditions.
Any other comments?
No.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes unanimously, and good luck.
No problem. If you guys have any questions, we'll be wrapping up soon, so if you want to stick around, we can answer any.
Okay. Last item on the agenda, or at least the active new business, is Resolution 07-2026, State Trunk Highway 195, access restriction modification.
Mr. Chair, Attorney Nick here in the audience from DeMarc, Colby, and Brodick requested on behalf of the Drager Lang and North Funeral Home to approve a modification to a village-mandated access restriction on what is now State Trunk Highway 195. The request is to remove the restriction for the existing driveway location while keeping the remaining restriction in place for the rest of the frontage. Approving this resolution would permit attorney to file an affidavit of correction at the Register of Deeds on behalf of the property owner. They want to clean up their title for estate planning purposes in the long run. The request complies with the transportation element of the comp plan, also both the land division and zoning ordinance and our strategic plan, and we recommend that you move to approve it. This is a pretty interesting one that's taken a lot of staff time insofar as it is a local restriction that Mount Pleasant placed on it back when we were maybe a town at the time, but at the time it was a county trunk highway. So weird that we would restrict anything on a county highway to begin with. Since then, the county and the state have traded, done a little bit of horse trading, so this is now a state trunk highway. So we went to the DOT and asked them to remove the restriction, and what they told us is, this is actually a locally administered restriction, so you all have to remove it, even though it's not a Mount Pleasant road. So this is where we've gotten to. They just want to.
Boy, I hope they don't come around and, Nick, make sure you get that in writing from them.
Yeah, we have the email in writing from
All right,
Sue at the
'cause,
DOT.
yeah,
Yes.
Yeah,
And both Nick and I are on that
So
email
it's
chain.
probably Frank's fault.
yeah.
It probably was, because we were semi-opposed to this rezoning at the county level back in the day. And I think the restriction was kind of a quid pro quo kind of thing to let us say, yeah, we'll go ahead.
Yep. So the problem is the existing driveway is in a place where the restriction is. And so just to clean up title, we're saying the driveway width is outside of that restriction, but the rest of the frontage, like you can't drop another driveway right on the intersection. So just trying to have it match what exists there today, essentially. So one of those weird ones that we run across every now and then. Robin did a bunch of back end research. We've been going back and forth between the landowner and the funeral home staff and us. So this is where we've gotten. This would be on the village board agenda in 2 weeks for approval, likely on the consent agenda, just to get this property title cleaned up, if you all are good with it.
Although the restriction has been there, but people have gone through that. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
the driveway's been there since they built the building.
Yeah, it is just some lines on a map that I think the title company caught, correct?
Well, I'm guessing,
Yep, the title company caught it. So no, none of us were any the wiser until this happened. So
Nick, would you like to step up to the microphone, just let us know what all happened, transpired, and why this has to get done? Or are you good with? Yeah. Why don't you share with us, please? Your name and address.
Sure, my name is Attorney Nick Verhollen, address 2709 Pinehurst Avenue, Racine, Wisconsin. One correction I'd make, this is actually for Drager Langendorf is selling the real estate there. It's to clean up the title with regards to that. The buyer had an ALTA survey done, and the ALTA survey picked up the restriction driveway access here, and that's ultimately what we need cleaned up.
Okay, that makes sense now. Yeah, thank you, I appreciate that. Any other questions? Or a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion
Okay.
in the matter of, where is it now? Resolution 07-2026, State Trunk Highway 195 Access Restriction Modification, that the Planning Commission moves to recommend approval as presented.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Good. Cleanup time. Thank you. And let's see here. Staff reports. Do we have anything?
Just a quick announcement that I am going on paternity leave starting next Monday until after the 4th of July. So if the commissioners have any questions,
4th of
please
July.
direct them to Robin or Deputy Administrator Patrick. You'll get an out-of-office email for the time being.
Like
So,
next year.
yep, I'll see you in a couple months.
So,
Congratulations.
so how long is the paternity? 2 months, 3 months?
2.5 months.
Well, these, when we were having kids, I had to work every day.
I want to raise, or I want to be a staff member and have another baby so I can get 2.5 months off, which neither one are going to happen. So. Congratulations, Sam, though.
Very good.
That's a great opportunity to spend
Hey.
time at home with your little one.
Need one last motion then.
Move to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We're done.
Good job, Chairman.